What's the most unprofessional thing a doctor has ever said to you? I have Raynaud's phenomenon, which is basically an overreaction to the cold where my blood vessels in my extremities constrict too much. I brought it up during a routine checkup when I was 17, saying that my hands go deathly white and numb in the cold. She told me it's all in my head. I was 17 and stupid and wasn't picking up what she was putting down, so I said no, I can see it happen when I'm cold. She cut me off and told me again it was all in my head and gave me a condescending look. She clearly just didn't want to deal with it. Also, my mom had cancer that didn't get caught until it was stage 4. It didn't get caught until stage 4 because the doctor she explained her symptoms to would literally say things like, "Don't worry, it's not like it's cancer or anything." A doctor told my husband, I can't make chicken soup out of chicken crap in regard to a finger injury he had. He wanted to cut the whole tip off. We convinced him to just put a couple stitches in it. It's actually quite amazing how well it healed. Well, good thing you're not a chef, now fix my damn finger. Note, I love this doctor, he just doesn't F around. Me, how do I prevent these back spasms from ever happening again? This is awful? Doc, you're old and fat. You can't be younger, so be less fat. Thanks, Doc. My wife Subjin was this youngish Russian doctor who was actually quite accomplished and respected, no clue why she was practicing at this rural hospital. Anyway, my wife was pregnant with our son and around the 4 to 5 month mark we're in an appointment and the doctor says in a thick accent, "Your weight gain is fine now. Try to stop gaining weight." We laughed for quite a bit at this. We loved this doctor as well, she was great but also didn't F around. A lot of her reviews were negative due to her lack of Fs to give in regard to coddling her patients. I've noticed Russians are more blunt in comparison to Americans. I have a Russian coworker, whom I adore by the way, and I'm pregnant. He didn't realize I was pregnant around 5 months and said, "You used to be too skinny, then you okay. Now you need to stop eating all this food because you get a little fat." Then he gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder, laughing out loud. It's the reverse, so when are you due? Laughing out loud. I also went to see a Russian doctor with the same attitude. Everything was fine, but she told me to stop eating fast food and lose weight. You're fat and you need to stop that. I won't forget those words, but I love baked goods a lot. I know an old school English doctor who told a patient they were fat. The patient replied that they couldn't be fat because they are vegetarian. Yes, and so are cows, was the response. I have a genetic predisposition to hernias, so I've had several. Went to a new GP in college cause I felt like I had another one. I think I have another hernia. It would be my second, I can't feel anything. Huh, I'm pretty sure it's there. You're probably just stressed with school or something. Okay. Fast forward a few months, I went to see a different GP because it really felt like I had a hernia. I think I have another hernia. Other doctor does the hernia check. No, you have 2 hernias. One's quite bad, so I'm going to get you a meeting with the surgeon this week. Sure enough, I had 2 hernias by that point and needed surgery. One time I went in for a general checkup and my doctor said, "Well, everything is fine with you except for that haircut." Sick burn. Did he high-five a nurse afterwards? Everyone in the waiting room laughed. Maybe if you got rid of that yee butt haircut you'd get some bitches on yo dick. I had a very rare complication of the flu and my nerves were getting eaten away by my immune system. I could barely walk and was numb from the waist down. By the time I was transferred to a hospital that could treat me, it was close to midnight and the doctor that admitted me was very young. I was the first person he'd seen with this condition. He kept saying how cool it was to do a neuro exam on someone who wasn't an actor, and when he would see how weak I was he'd be like, "Oh wow, you really are weaker on that side, that's so interesting." To be fair, after 12 hours of everyone talking to me like I was going to die, I found it quite entertaining. It was unprofessional, but I appreciated his enthusiasm for learning. ETA, yes, it was GBS, and as of today, May 10, 2021, I am not dead. Thanks for checking though. Last year I had an allergic response to something and had a rash over my whole body. So, I saw my PCP, and he legit said, 5 tristing. I replied with, no, not interesting. Boring. I want to be boring. Make me boring, please. For a routine exam, the doctor insisted that his young nurse take my temperature rectally, not orally, much to her embarrassment as she inserted the probe. As I once described, he claimed that the rectal reading was more accurate. But for a routine checkup, it's hard to see the benefit of this relative to the embarrassment it causes. For this exam, I'm going to have to stick a thermometer up your butt. But this is a maths exam. Just shut up and bend over. Doctor here, and I really hate to admit this. Very early in my career I was talking to a male patient. I had to ask him about penile discharge and I just couldn't remember what the professional way to ask was. Do I say dick? No. That's not right. Come on, think, damn it. You're a doctor now. Wait. There's been too long of a silence. Dong. I went with dong. Never expected this to take off. Love all the comments and conversations thus far. And to all of those asking, yes, penis would have been the word of choice, but it slipped my mind. Hence, the dong. Does your dong drip? Sigh, I said. So, are you having any discharge from, points down there your dong? Cue pin drop silence, man shrugging. Laughing out loud, could have been way worse, doc. I'd have laughed, assuming it wasn't falling off. I'm 56 and borderline diabetic. I also have low testosterone and less on TRT. So the physical in question was a A1C check, a testosterone check, and all the normal cholesterol crap. I love my doctor and his country butt nurses. One of them is questioning me prior to my blood being drawn, and the relatively new nurse said, "Do you ever feel I'm potent?" And I thought she said important, which is a confusing question at a doctor's office, so I said what? With a confused look on my face. She said, your dick work all right? Edit, since this is my all-time top comment. Everything works fine. The sugar diabetes described by most local folks is under control, and I have complete confidence in my doctor and in his unsophisticated but completely competent team. I would remind you all that syntax and intelligence and competence are all separate things. Completely different profession, but I was a field organizer on the presidential campaign, meaning that a big part of my job was volunteer recruitment. I called a woman in her 50s, said that I was with the state Democratic Party, and she said, "Are you really, or are you a Republican pretending to be a Democrat?" I panicked trying to think of something that only a 20-something liberal would say, and what I came up with was okay, boomer. It worked, and she signed up to volunteer. I got circumcised when I was 16. The next time I saw my doctor for a physical later the same year, and he examined my penis, he kept making comments about how hot my penis looked after the surgery and how it made the tip pop. Needless to say, I got my father to file a complaint and never went back to see him again. Still makes me feel super gross thinking about it. Me, I have bad balance. I keep walking into things and I get headaches. Doctor, this happens to girls who are too skinny. How often do you exercise? Me, about once a week, and I eat like a horse. Doctor, you're fine, just you're going to the gym too much. Few months later I was diagnosed with a serious neurological condition. Not me, but a friend. She had just gone through a miscarriage after trying to conceive for a while. Since she was quite young, the doctor asked, "Well, you didn't really want the baby, right?" I took my 9-year-old daughter to see what was supposed to be a highly respected neurologist at the Children's Hospital for a consultation about her ad. First he asked her if she'd ever kissed a boy, and what she would do if a boy tried to kiss her. Then when I mentioned that I was concerned about her thumb sucking, he said, "The boys will like that when she gets older." We did not continue seeing that doctor. A few years later, a friend of mine saw the same doctor after her son was born with a cranial deformity. He called the baby a little egghead and said, "Don't worry, Mom, he won't be a retard." I think the guy should have been seeing a neurologist himself. Then when I mentioned that I was concerned about her thumb sucking, he said, "The boys will like that when she gets older." What the actual F? Who says stuff like that? The doctor sounds like a legit pedo. Maybe that's why he worked at a children's hospital. I think he needs to be reported to the medical board. I received a head injury at work 11 years ago. The doctor my employer sent me to said, "Don't worry, I'm sure your headaches will stop once you get your payout." I was shocked. Still, have headaches pretty much every single day since. Yep, you were wrong, you motherfahash at I had a very traumatic birth with my last baby. Long story short, she was too big and coming out too fast, and she took some parts out with her she wasn't supposed to. I had to have emergency surgery while she was less than an hour old to stop the bleeding. The surgery ruined my uterus, and the doctor told me since I have a history of large babies/fast deliveries this would definitely happen again and not to conceive again. So I go to make an appointment to get my tubes tied or removed. My husband drove me. That doctor refused to sign off on it because, her words, I was only 22, and what if my husband and I divorced and I found a different man in my 30s? What if I woke up in my 30s or 40s when my babies were grown and wanted another? She thought I was too young to make such a decision and told us to have my husband get a vasectomy, which he offered to do, but since I was the one getting pregnant I wanted the sterilization. I had to make a different appointment with the original doctor from the hospital. It's almost like you were getting sterilized to prevent a serious medical problem. Like, oh, you're getting sterilized because if you give birth again it will kill you? Good. After all, you're just a baby factory, you won't be missed. After having routine blood work done because of a biologic I am on, my doc at the time noted a positive for Hep C. He stated I must have got it, Hep C, from sharing dirty needles or having unprotected sex. When I told him that I have never been an 4-drug user and had been married for 15 years, he had that look on his face like, right. The Hep C turned out to be a false positive and I found a new doctor soon after. I just dealt with a false positive for gonorrhea from routine tests, and the county health worker that I had to meet with absolutely did not believe that my husband of 7 years is my only sexual partner ever and asked to check arms for track marks. Lots of eye rolling and huffing and not a single sound of apology when it was confirmed a false positive. After spending a night in bed with a close friend who is HIV positive, I asked my doctor to run an HIV test. He also added other STDs to the tests. HIV came back negative, but I was positive for Hep C. Did he accuse me of anything? No, because he's a decent person. He said, "Let's run this one again, false positives are a very real thing." Second one came back negative, of course. And that's how a doctor is supposed to react to a, possibly false, positive. My family doctor told me to try meditating for my rash, which turned out to be the first stage of anaphylaxis. Medically, I know there is something going on, but as far as a diagnosis, the most I can say is you're a mess. That was the literal diagnosis, you're a mess. I got a hospital letter with that diagnosis. I mean, I respect his admission that he didn't know what was going on. I have a rare bleeding condition, but that diagnosis did not help. Edit, holy crap. Thanks for the support, guys. This was 4 years ago for me. The pain has dulled, but talking about it again makes me realize I probably should have reported the behavior. For those asking what a D&C is, it's a dilation and curettage. Essentially a procedure that involves the doctor scraping the uterus to remove any tissue, fetus, that the body doesn't naturally expel. Sorry for those of you who have gone through something similar. I'm grateful for all the kind messages. My mom and I had similar stories. My pregnant mom went into the doctor to get a regular exam done. He feels around her abdomen and asks how far along she was. She answers 5 months. The doctor then laughs and says, "Well, don't start the nursery, you'll be getting a D&C long before you see a baby," or something to that effect. She had miscarried her child around 2 months and her body never aborted the fetus, so she didn't know that she had lost her baby. She is still traumatized about the way the doctor broke the news to her. My story: pregnant with my second baby, I had about 20 positive pregnancy tests and I was almost 11 weeks along, started bleeding, so went to the ER. The doctor examines me, I get an ultrasound, then we have to wait. Nearly 3 hours later he comes back and says, "Good news. It was a positive pregnancy. But there is no heartbeat. WTF. Emotional roller coaster. F that guy. This is probably the worst one here. My God. I've had a terrible back, with associated terrible back pain since my early teens. My country, Australia, is essentially free medical care. I was visiting a physiotherapist/chiro for my pain recently. After the second visit, he mentioned that we have a scheme for chronic pain that gives us 6 free visits to a physio/chiro as long as you see a general practitioner and he gives you a reference. So off I hobbled to my regular GP. Again, seeing a GP here is free. Went into his room, told him what I was after, and he said he'd need x-rays. Awesome, already had them done. And that they were already in our merged health system. He looked at the x-rays and decides that my back is fine. And don't need any physio or chiro work. I looked at him incredulously and asked to see the x-rays myself. He spun the screen around. Sure enough, they were mine. And he didn't see anything wrong. Despite some pretty severe scoliosis and other twists and turns. Walked out, went down the street the next block to a GP I'd never seen before. He takes a look and signs me off straight away and wishes me well. Album of x-rays for any budding spine folk out there. Web link. I am a very laid-back, patient, happy type person, and continue to be in a relationship with my now husband, then boyfriend, where we don't bicker, or take things out on each other, etc. We don't generally lose our temper at each other. We do argue on rare occasion, but it's certainly not anything near a regular occurrence, maybe once a year. When I started a particular type of birth control that had been prescribed to help my adult acne, and I transformed into a raging storm of shouty negativity, it was very obvious that it wasn't normal. I was losing my crap all day every day, and would explode into rage at the smallest thing. I reported this to my male doctor, who initially refused to believe me, and then when I persisted, shrugged it off and said, well, it may have this effect on people with a propensity towards that behavior. Basically saying the only reason I was losing my temper was because that was just the way I was. I ditched the birth control and the doctor and have been much happier since. Your breast tissue is extremely dense, which I'm sure your husband enjoys, but it's making it difficult to get a good view. MRI for breast cancer. When I was younger, I went to a doctor over severe panic attacks and depression. She told me my problem was that I had it too easy living off my parents and that I need a good kick up the butt into the real world. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.